Hi, I'm coming on to talk today about Chapter 2 from The Space Within by Michael Neill. So this first week of the book group, we're looking at both Chapters 1 and 2, and most of what I've shared so far in terms of the blog and the social media content is around Chapter 1 in terms of that space, the space within which thoughts, feelings, perceptions, sensations all arise. And so I thought for the video for this week, I would talk a bit more about Chapter 2. And the title of that chapter is Thought is Not What You Think. There is a double meaning to that. And part of that double meaning is that thought doesn't mean you're thinking. So most of us spend our time, or certainly thought in the context of Michael's work and the 3 principles which he points to. So we tend to think about thought and thinking interchangeably, that those things that run through our heads that tell us all those things all day, every day, we call them thoughts, we call them our thinking, we don't really differentiate. So in this chapter, Michael does differentiate between thought and thinking. So thought, capital T, thought, as a principle of life. So like gravity, whether you know about it or not, gravity keeps you on the ground and has an effect on you. And the same with capital T, thought. Capital T, thought shapes your experience, whether you know about it or not, whether you've learnt about it or not, whether you've even considered it for a second or not. And he talks about it as being the Play-Doh of life. Versus thinking, which is like this, I suppose like mental noise, that chattery voice inside. So one of the things he shares to differentiate these, if you look at this picture, so that well-known illusion of the girl and the old lady, and he talks about how most of our development paradigms try and sort out the thinking. So if we were to say, do you see a young lady or an old lady? Most development is trying to say, well, see the right lady. You know, look at it in the right way, look at it positively, look at it from the right perspective, so that you see the right kind of lady, so you have the right kind of experience of life. And what Michael's pointing to is that there is no lady. It's the power of thought, capital T, thought, that constructs our experience of either a young lady or an older lady using lines and dots and squiggles. The mind constructs the idea of a lady. There is no fundamental lady on that picture, on the page. There is just a bunch of markings. But capital T, thought, is the thing that constructs the experience of a lady on the page. And the same in our lives. Capital T, thought, is always constructing our experience. We don't experience a world out there. We experience a mind-made construction. Something which takes that little bit of information that comes in from the outside and turns it into an apparent thing, an object, a person. And an example of this, to show how thought is constructed, our experience is constructed, Deepak Chopra talked about an experiment where they had cats, which were potentially slightly cruelly raised in environments which had either just vertical lines or just horizontal lines. So these cats had never experienced the other. And when they were brought out into the world, they couldn't see the kind of lines which they hadn't been brought up with. So their minds had only learnt to see either vertical lines or horizontal lines, and the other was absent from their experience of the world. They couldn't experience those objects. Their mind hadn't programmed in that kind of possibility, and therefore there was nothing there to be able to construct that experience of the information that came in from the outside. So capital T, thought, is really pointing to that the mind is constructing images of everything we're experiencing every single day, every single minute. And it really seems like the more we recognise that, the less the thinking, little t thinking, seems to bother us. In the recognition of what our experience really is, little t thinking really stops being an issue and stops interrupting and affecting and stops looking so compelling in our experience. So have a read of the chapter, tell me what you think. I'd love to hear your questions and your reflections, and I look forward to seeing you next week.